Welcome to episode 8 of Quirkiest Pro Facts about English. We really hope you like our work, so please keep those likes and comments coming and smash the subscribe and bell icons to have YouTube notify you when new stuff drops on our channel. So, here is the next set of what we believe are some of the quirkiest quirky things about the English language. Number 1. English has a lot of irregular verbs. They don't follow a pattern when you change their tense, making it one of the reasons English grammar can be challenging to learn. The English language, with all its quirks and peculiarities, is a language that can be both fascinating and frustrating to learn. One of the reasons for this is the presence of irregular verbs, which do not follow a predictable pattern when conjugated. This can be a major hurdle for language learners as it can make English grammar seem like a daunting task. To fully understand the issue at hand, it is necessary to take a closer look at what makes a verb irregular. In English, a regular verb follows a simple pattern when changing tenses. For example, the past tense of the verb walk is walked, and the past participle is walked as well. However, irregular verbs do not follow this pattern. For instance, the past tense of go is went, and the past participle is gone. There are hundreds of irregular verbs in English, and learning them all can be a daunting task. Some of the more common irregular verbs include eat, past tense ate, past participle eaten, break, past tense broke, past participle broken, and swim, past tense swam, past participle swum. These verbs and many others like them require memorization and practice to master. So, why does English have so many irregular verbs? One theory suggests that the irregular verbs in English may have originated from Old English, where irregular verbs were more common. Over time, regular verbs became more prevalent, but irregular verbs persisted. Another theory is that irregular verbs may have come from different linguistic roots and were assimilated into English over time. Regardless of their origins, irregular verbs can be a major obstacle for language learners. It can be challenging to memorize all the different conjugations and use them correctly in context. However, with practice and exposure to English in various forms, such as reading, writing, and speaking, learners can overcome this obstacle. It's important to note that irregular verbs are not unique to English. Many languages, including French, Spanish, and German, have their own sets of irregular verbs. In fact, some languages, such as Arabic and Hebrew, have no verb conjugation at all. So while English may be challenging in this regard, it is by no means unique in its complexity. And irregular verbs are just one of the many challenges that language learners face when learning English. While they may seem daunting at first, with practice and exposure to the language, learners can become proficient in their use. So keep studying, keep practicing, and soon enough, you will be able to use irregular verbs with ease and confidence. Number 2, English is full of confusing idioms that don't make literal sense, and even native speakers may not always know their origin or meaning. The English language is a perplexing and convoluted entity filled with confusing idioms that can make even the most seasoned native speaker scratch their head in bewilderment. These idioms often defy literal interpretation, leaving the uninitiated feeling bewildered and baffled. From raining cats and dogs to barking up the wrong tree, these expressions can be a linguistic minefield for those unfamiliar with their meanings. One of the most baffling idioms in the English language is butter someone up. What on earth could this possibly mean? Is it a reference to spreading butter on someone's skin, or perhaps an arcane culinary technique for preparing someone for consumption? As it turns out, the phrase has nothing to do with butter or cannibalism. Instead, it refers to the practice of massaging someone's ego or flattering them in order to gain their favor. The origins of the phrase are uncertain, but it likely stems from the notion of softening someone up like butter in order to make them more receptive to persuasion. Another perplexing idiom is letting the cat out of the bag. This expression refers to revealing a secret, but why would anyone keep a cat in a bag in the first place? As it turns out, the phrase likely derives from a common trick used by medieval markets to swindle customers. Unscrupulous vendors would replace valuable pigs or lambs with less expensive cats, which they would then conceal in bags. If the customer didn't inspect the bag before purchasing, they would unwittingly end up with a feline instead of a feast. Of course, not all idioms have such colorful origins. Some, like raining cats and dogs, have no clear source and may simply be the product of centuries of linguistic evolution. Others, like the ball is in your court, have a more recent history with their origins traceable to specific events or individuals. Regardless of their origins, these idioms are an integral part of the English language, and understanding their meanings is essential for effective communication. Even native speakers may not always know the origin or meaning of every idiom, but with a bit of research and a willingness to learn, anyone can become a master of these linguistic quirks. So now you know how the English language is full of confusing idioms that can be a challenge for even the most seasoned speaker. From buttering someone up to letting the cat out of the bag, these expressions can leave us scratching our heads in confusion. But with a bit of effort and a willingness to learn, we can unravel the mysteries of these linguistic oddities and become fluent in the language of idioms. Number 3, English has words that have opposite meanings depending on the context. The English language is a fascinatingly complex and nuanced system of communication. One of the peculiarities of the language is that it contains words that have opposite meanings depending on the context. This linguistic phenomenon, known as contronyms or auto-antonyms, is both amusing and confounding and serves as a testament to the richness and complexity of the English language. Contronyms are words that have two or more meanings that are contradictory. For example, the word cleave can mean to stick together or to split apart. Similarly, the word sanction can mean to permit or to prohibit. This can lead to some confusion when attempting to decipher the intended meaning of a sentence, especially when relying on context alone. But fear not, dear friend, for this linguistic oddity has been documented and studied extensively by linguists and lexicographers alike. In fact, there are entire dictionaries devoted to these perplexing words, such as The Contradictionary by William S. Barker and The Oxymoron Factor by Darryl. Contronyms are not limited to obscure or archaic words either. Commonly used words such as bolt, trim, and screen can all have opposite meanings depending on the context in which they are used. This linguistic phenomenon is not unique to the English language either. Other languages, such as Mandarin and French, also contain words with multiple contradictory meanings. In fact, the term contronym itself is a contronym, as it can mean either a word with opposite meaning or a word with the same meaning as another word. Despite the potential for confusion, contronyms can also be a source of amusement and wordplay. Comedian Stephen Wright once quipped, "I'm a peripheral visionary. I can see the future, but only way off to the side." The word peripheral in this context has opposite meanings, as it can refer to something on the outskirts or something fundamental. Such is the English language, a labyrinthine system of communication full of surprises and contradictions. Contronyms, with their opposing meanings, add to the richness and complexity of this already fascinating language. So, the next time you encounter a word with multiple meanings, take a moment to appreciate the absurdity and complexity of the English language. And remember, context is key. That's the end of this episode, guys. But while you are here, why not check out one of our other videos? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.